All right, I am live. I believe I'm live. I am trying OBS for the first time, trying to live stream, get this up and going. I have no idea what I'm doing. I'm basically just feeling my way through this on my MacBook Air. Hopefully, everything sounds good. I have the Yeti microphone plugged in. I'm not sure if it's working correctly. I'm not sure if the overlay I have up is working correctly. I know that in time I'll learn what to do and how to do it. I just thought it was important to dive in. It's been a while. I'm not very tech savvy when it comes to this game streaming and YouTube thing, but I am also not a complete moron. So now that I have it working, I believe that the chat is up. I think. I figured that out, that chat bot thing. And I'm going to begin talking about a few things. First is Kotaku and the article that they put up, which basically supported taking someone else's game, basically stealing. They talked about game preservation and how, the idea of taking a game or what's the word I'm looking for? I read the article. Man, it's so late and trying to figure this shit out and get it up. It's not modding. It's essentially when you're ripping a game and changing it. But essentially, they gave links to the sites that would allow you to do that. And the game they were talking about was Metroid Dread. So Metroid Dread is a brand new game, and they're telling you how to essentially steal the game. But then in the same article, they decided after a bunch of people went crazy after reading this and really called them out on it, they added a footnote at the bottom, and you can find it. It's Kotaku. I'm not going to link it or anything like that or tell you where to go. But they basically said that, well, for game preservation, sometimes this needs to happen, but we're not implying that people go out there and steal, but everyone's an adult, so make your own decision, which is just unbelievable. It was unbelievable that they were talking about allowing you to essentially steal a brand new game. Now, older games, if you want to take them, and I still can't think of the word. I don't know what it is. God, I don't know what's wrong with me. It's so late. If that's what you want to do to preserve games, old games, that's fine. Emulate. That's what I'm looking for. Emulation on PC. They basically wrapped up stealing in the cocoon of emulation and game preservation to try and make it seem like it was okay. Actually gave you links and where to go to essentially steal Metroid Dread. Now, I just think it's terrible that they would be able to do that and not even think before they put that out there. Emulating old games is fine if you want to talk about game preservation, if you want to talk about, the idea that, some companies don't even do the bare minimum to keep their content around. And sometimes people use emulation to allow old games to have new life, and that's fine. But when you're using that as an excuse to take a game that just released and essentially steal it, I'm not too sure I'm on board with that. And I found it to be just unbelievably irresponsible for them to put that up there. Hopefully this is all working. I have no idea. It's very late. I'm tired. I decided I would play around with OBS, downloaded it. No clue what I'm doing. The next thing I wanted to talk about was Jim Ryan talking about he would love to not have content gated, and some people taking that as, well, it's validation of Phil Spencer and Microsoft's strategy. I don't know if I really read it that way. If there were a lot of people out there, billions of people, and they wanted to play PlayStation games, presumably they would know about God of War. They would know about Horizon. They would know about Ghost of Tsushima and Uncharted. They would know about all of these games. At some point in time, if they really wanted to play them, they would have purchased a PlayStation. The idea that somehow there are a billion people out there just waiting for Sony to release these games on a phone, I just don't see it happening. Now, you could argue that, well, if they did it, they may get 10 million more customers. Even 2 million more customers is 2 million more than they already had. Okay, that's fine. But you also have to worry about the audience that you have now. And there is such a thing as a addressable market. There is no market that goes into infinity. So it's not like, movies have an unlimited supply of people who want to consume them. Because if that was true, then billions and billions of people would be doing it. And there is a addressable market. There's a top end. Everything has a top end. For a long time, consoles have had a top end of around 300 to 400 million, around 300 million people every generation buy a console, whether or not it's an Xbox, a PlayStation, a Nintendo, a Sega Genesis, any generation. There's been about 350, let's say 350 to 400 million people combined when you add them all up that buy consoles. And that hasn't grown in a while. And they're trying to find ways to grow that so they can make more money. The assumption is that it hasn't grown because there's a whole lot of people out there who would play all of those games, but they just never bought a console to do it. They also could have bought a PC. They haven't done that yet either, because if they had, we wouldn't be looking to grow a market. So what are they doing? Are they just waiting around, holding their tablets and phones, hoping someday that they can play these games? I'm not sure if that's... I just don't see that happening. And I get that they want to make a lot of money and they want to grow that market, but I just don't think it's going to happen. You look at Nintendo. Again, I keep bringing up Nintendo, right? They don't have it online. They don't have a subscription service. They have a bare bones user interface. The friends list is almost, it doesn't even exist almost. And yet they're selling millions upon millions and upon millions of units. They're selling millions of games. Why are they doing that? It's because they found global success with their brand. Microsoft and Sony, as big as they are and as good as they are with their gaming, Sony to more of a degree than Microsoft, they're not as popular globally as Nintendo. They're not opening theme parks in Disneyland. The Geek Getaway is in the chat. The chat is working. This is my first stream with OBS. I have no idea what I'm doing. It's late. I just decided to pop in and try and get it working. And apparently the chat is working, so that's good to know. But back to Nintendo, they have this success that Sony's chasing and Microsoft is chasing. They want that large global success, right? And there's a reason why Nintendo does what they do. There's a reason why it seems like they're not branching out, because they've already succeeded. They've already done what Sony and Microsoft want to do. The difference is that Microsoft is doing it in a way that a software company would. Sony's a hardware company that's up against this largeable, addressable market, and they're looking at it in the way that a software company would look at it, because Microsoft's doing something with Game Pass. Nintendo doesn't need that. They're not going to do that. Just because Microsoft is doing something doesn't mean that anybody else needs to do it to be successful. Geek Getaway says, I saw you streaming and popped in. Yeah, this is first time. Hopefully the sound is coming through all right. I'm trying to figure out how to get the Yeti to work on OBS. And I have someone in here called Deadpool. Nintendo wins with fun games. See, I think that's the point, right? Everyone forgets. We're all so caught up. Not me, but I see... there's a reason why I don't do this a lot, is because it seems like on YouTube and YouTube gaming in general, people are so caught up in things that just don't matter. You know what I mean? They're talking about power, they're talking about specs, they're talking about some graphical effects, and they don't even know what they are, like ray tracing, 4K. If it's not 4K, it's not good. And all Nintendo does consistently is force people to evaluate their content in the way that all content should be evaluated, based on the fun factor, right? They're not putting a Nintendo game in and saying, is it 4K? Does it have ray tracing? They're doing what we've done since the beginning of time when it comes to consoles. You buy a game, you put it in, you look at what's on the screen, and you interact with it and you enjoy it. Yes, things get better over time, and of course their games look great. I mean, Breath of the Wild looks great, Luigi's Mansion 3 looks great, but I think there's something to be said, and my cat will not shut the hell up. I think there's something to be said for what they're doing, and hopefully they can continue to do that. And I love the idea that with all the arguing back and forth between these strategies between Sony and Microsoft, that to me anyway, Nintendo is like a safe space. And I hate using the word safe space because I'm not a friggin' snowflake. I'm talking about when it comes to like gaming in general, that feeling of going home again, it's always there with Nintendo. I love that feeling. And I think, 20 years from now, if you asked me, who would still be making a console 20 years from now, 30 years from now, I can guarantee you that you're going to be buying a Nintendo console 20 years from now. What I can't guarantee you is if you'll be buying an Xbox. And you probably will be able to buy a PlayStation. See, that's the thing. Yes, things are changing, but the argument that, well, because Microsoft's doing something, or because Sony may be doing something, that everybody needs to do it. It's kind of like, and I use this analogy a lot when it comes to streaming, it's kind of like going back to the 1800s and telling everybody who's doing everything with a horse, everything, get rid of the horse, stop doing what you're doing, because 100 years from now, there are going to be these things called cars. It makes no sense to tell anybody then to do that. And it makes no sense to worry now about 20 years from now what's going to be happening in the marketplace. Maybe streaming takes over, but who cares, because it's 20 years from now. Right now, the old playbook is working. What Nintendo's doing and what Sony's doing, listen, Sony's doing exactly what they've always done. They release a console that's well built, they release great games for it, right? And people buy it. Microsoft's tried that, and they just stopped trying right around the middle of the Xbox 360 generation because they found a lot of success because the arrogance of Sony kicked in. And they got this false sense of security in the market. I mean, Microsoft going from the 360 to the Xbox One thought they'd sell, 200 million consoles, which was insane. But that's the thing. Buck Rogers is here. Okay, everything is working. Eyeballs and popcorn, yeah. Well, this is probably going to be a rough stream. I'm just talking off the top of my head. I just tried to get this to work tonight. I had some time, downloaded OBS on my MacBook, and I have no clue what I'm doing when it comes to live streaming with this software. Hopefully it's all coming through and sounds okay. I have the Yeti plugged in. Just figured I'd start talking about some things. The Kotaku article that basically, made it seem like stealing Metroid Dread was okay. I don't know if anybody's seen that or you've seen that. Talked about that a little bit a while ago. Yeah, I can't even fucking talk. A little while ago. I thought it was disgusting. Emulation. I'm not a PC guy. I'm just not. I get preservation. I get emulation and all that stuff, but don't steal stuff. Don't tell me that you're emulating a game and a game that just came out. You're taking it. It's exactly. Stream is working great. Bug Rogers says, thanks a lot, man. I appreciate that. Hopefully I can get this up and going. And, in time I'll get much better at it. I'm not really good at... I don't want to say I'm not good at podcasting because I've done it in the past. I've done a lot of, Xbox-centric podcasts, PlayStation-centric podcasts. But I get so bored because, there's people that are just so extreme on one side or the other. And I can't stand talking to people like that. It just drives me crazy that like men between 25 and 50 years old, they're console warring for hits and subscribers. I can't stand that. You know what I mean? I don't really care. I mean, it's nice to have people come in here. Like there's 2 people viewing this right now. To me, that's phenomenal, right? I can't believe it. 11:46 Eastern Standard Time for me. And there are 2 people interacting in a chat room. That's great. I'm not driven by this idea that I need to be somebody online. Deadpool, fanboys. Yeah, I mean, look, that drives traffic. I don't understand it. I get to the point where, and this is why I find myself going back to playing a lot of Nintendo recently. The older you get, man, I mean, you just really start to move away from that shit, and you realize that there's so much bullshit you have to deal with in life that when you want to play video games, if video games are something that you've used your whole life and you enjoy and you grew up with, you don't want to engage with them in a negative way, in a toxic way. Yeah, you can have an opinion. Like my opinion is Microsoft right now sucks. I don't like what they're doing at all. Their content, in my opinion, is awful. Now, hopefully, Halo Infinite is a good game. Buck Rogers. Way true, Worrywart. I miss when games... See, I can't even see. That's how small this print is. I need to get readies, man. My God, I'm fucking old. Oh. What the hell was I talking about? Oh, just, I go back to playing Nintendo games because I don't have to worry about, like, do I have the best... And I do have a big 4K television that does all the, all the shit that you're supposed to have with your television. But when it comes to Nintendo, like, I'm constantly surprised. Like, I'm not looking for 4K. I'm not looking for ray tracing. I'm not looking for the highest end graphics. So when I put a game in, I literally just engage with it when I see it. The presentation. I appreciate it in the way that I always appreciated games in the past. Nobody goes out and buys a system and says, does this have, full RDNA 2? Does it have ray tracing? They just buy it because they saw a game on television or their friend had a game. They saw Horizon Forbidden West, right? And they said, Jesus, I got to get that game. Look how great that game looks. So I'd like to get back to that. Yeah, technology's great. I get it. I bought a 70-inch 4K television. I'm not trying to say like, I'm a retro gamer to the point where, I'm playing with an Etch-a-Sketch. But I just feel like things have gotten so far out of hand. And the people that are successful, that do this stuff, that podcast about games, I just find a lot of them disingenuous. I really do. I don't like it. I just find it to be just... It's like when you take something that you love and people manipulate it because, they can get a lot of subscribers or they can get some money or they can get a super chat. And it's out of my... It's beyond belief to me that people pay to ask questions. I mean, I'm not saying that's a bad thing or whatever, right? If you can get it, get it. Who knows? Maybe I'll do it. I don't know. It just blows me away that people actually pay to ask questions. Here's something else. Like, you guys are talking to me right now in a chat, and I'm looking at it and I'm reading them. But can you imagine ignoring everybody? Like, I'm going to ignore Buck Rogers. I'm going to ignore Deadpool. I'm going to ignore the Geek Getaway right now because they're not paying me to look at them. To me, that's such a foreign concept. That's probably because I'm old, right? I didn't grow up with it. It's not normal to me. A lot of the things around gaming aren't normal to me now. If I had readies, I'd be able to read these. So let me get close. Buck Rogers. I'm more of a... Oh, Deadpool's going crazy. Guess your Streamlabs notifications aren't set up. Oh, yeah, I guess not. I have no idea what that means. Am I missing something? Who knows? I wonder if I can make this bigger. Oh, yeah, I can. Hopefully that didn't mess up. I just want to maybe make this about gaming in general. Talk about games that I'm getting. Talk about games that I'm playing. Like, I just ordered Metroid Dread. I wanted to get that collector's edition. Have you seen that collector's edition? It's $89. Right now, those friggin' scalpers, man, are charging $160 for it. And I'm not paying it. Shout out to us old gamers, Buck Rogers says. Yeah, somebody's got to do it, right? Before we all hit the home and get sponge baths from, giant German ladies. Why is it always like in nursing homes, the women are like large and German? It scares the shit out of me, man. Why can't they be like Swedish? That's where I want to go. Someplace where there's Swedish sponge baths. This is way off topic. Streamlabs. The support to stream links you. Blah, blah, blah. I sent you a few bucks. I have no idea. I don't have it set up, so you might have sent that money somewhere. Who knows? I have no idea, man. No clue. I don't know. I'm tired of all of it. I podcast, and look, I like the guys that I podcast with, and I haven't been around for a long time. They just instantly welcome me back, and I love that. But sometimes, man, I just cannot take the double standards and the idea that, like, you can like a console, but once you tie your entire persona to a console. You have a YouTube channel named after a console, let's say. Like, what do you do if they screw up? What do you do if you named, like, let's say you had a YouTube channel based with Sega, and Sega went out of the console business? What would you do with your channel? Would you just like flip flop to something else? It just doesn't make sense to me. It's much more interesting to talk about everything, and that's what I think I'm going to do when I get these streams to the point where I know what the hell I'm doing, and I'm not just, streaming off the top of my head. I actually thought about, maybe making a list of things to talk about so that I have some sort of guidelines, so that I'm not like, rambling all over the place like I am right now. I can't believe that I have 4 people in here watching, which is insane to me, but what are you going to do? I promise, guys, once I get my readies, I'll be able to read your comments. I literally cannot see these comments on the side of the screen. That's how sad it is. Sega memories. Oh my God, you have no idea. Listen, I was all about NES. Don't get me wrong, I love Nintendo, and I got the NES with Rob the Robot. But I remember it was about 2 weeks before Christmas, and Sega launched the commercial for the Sega Master System. And it was Safari Hunt and Hang On, the pack-in games. When I saw that commercial, I was like, Nintendo, what? I gotta get that system. Not only does it look futuristic, but look at those graphics. Hang on, that's the future, man. I'd never seen anything like that in my life. Of course, I had to pick one because we didn't have a lot of money at the time, so I got the Sega Master System first, but then I had to get the NES too. But man, the Master System, I had my Master System. I'm actually looking at it right now. It's in my entertainment center. I had so much fun with that game, playing Ghost House and F-16 fighting Falcon. There's so many good games. Space Harrier. Unbelievable times. And then the best console of all time for me was the Genesis. My God, when that came out. Pro wrestling. I played that endlessly with my brother. We had leagues going. It was insane. And right around that time, they started with all those bullshit add-ons. Remember the Sega CD and then the 32X? And that's when it started to really feel like, oh, man. And that's why I'm glad that I'm a pessimist, because by the time we got to the Dreamcast and they announced that, I knew it was over. I knew it was done for Sega. It was over. Everyone was telling me, no, they're back. They're going to destroy PlayStation 2. It just wasn't going to happen. And I just knew it at the time. And I'm looking at my Dreamcast here too. Sega, man, is the absolute best. Oh, wait a second. It says Tony donated $3. Is that right? Am I doing this correctly? Tony TGD? I have no idea. No clue. It's just popping up underneath something called a mini feed. Guys, I am so not technical with this stuff when it comes to OBS. I'm computer savvy, but this streaming stuff, this software, I have no clue, man. So thanks for bearing with me here. Buck Rogers, yeah, the Genesis is still my... Yeah, you know what it is, man? I don't know what it was with the Genesis. I think it was just... I can't even put my finger on it. It was so much fun, and that's what I want to get back to. You remember, like, yeah, there was the console wars. Genesis does what Nintendo don't and all, but you really didn't buy the systems for that stuff. Maybe YouTube, maybe social media ruined it, is ruining gaming. You know what I mean? Like the constant barrage of negativity, the constant nitpicking at things like, do you remember the GTA grass situation? I mean, what the fuck? There's more grass in the Xbox version of Grand Theft Auto than the PlayStation. It was so ridiculous. And the differences now between these consoles is the smallest it's ever been, guys. I'm not saying there isn't a difference, but it's so small now that are we really nitpicking about games? You know they're going to make sure that all of these third-party games run on the PlayStation 5 and the Xbox Series X. Maybe not the S. I bought an S. Why did I buy an S? Because I spent $500 hairs for an Xbox One X, the world's most powerful console. And then 2 years later, they discontinued it. And they started a marketing campaign, which was the exact same marketing campaign as the Xbox One X for the Xbox Series X. And I thought, why am I going to spend another $500? So then when they announced the Xbox Series S, I said, okay, I'm going to jump in here for $300. Not because I didn't have the $500, because I felt a little bit burned by Microsoft. So far, the Xbox Series S, I'm impressed with it. I have a good time with it. The best thing about it is Microsoft's adherence to backwards compatibility. I mean, here's what's really fucked up. I can play Metal Gear Solid 2, Metal Gear Solid 3, Metal Gear Solid Peace Walker on the Xbox natively, but I can't play those games on the PlayStation. That's insane to me. Deadpool says, just enjoy playing games. It's not worth it. Yeah, you know what? You can definitely have a favorite system. I completely understand that. Like, I love the PlayStation 5 right now. I can't get over how great the controller feels. I just love engaging with it. But not to the point where I'm going to deny myself of games that I want to play. Like, there are people out there, and I'm sure you know them on social media, who haven't played God of War, haven't played Ghost of Tsushima, haven't played Horizon, haven't played Spider-Man, and the only reason they haven't played these games is because they're on PlayStation. They have the means to play them. Now, if you don't have the means to play them, I get it. It's expensive. But these are people who created personas for themselves online and won't play video games because they say PlayStation in front of them. And vice versa, I'm sure, when it comes to Xbox. But to me, that's insane. Peace Walker is a sleeper hit, Buck Rogers. Man, let me tell you, if you have an Xbox, you can download it. You can purchase it and download it. On the Xbox Series S, it looks so good. Obviously, was it a PlayStation Vita game? I think it was a portable game. But it looks really good on my Xbox Series S. And let me tell you, Metal Gear Solid 3, first off, let's talk about the rumor about Metal Gear Solid 3 coming back for the PlayStation. Makes a lot of sense, right? Because Metal Gear Solid 3 took place before Metal Gear Solid 1 on the PlayStation 1 and Metal Gear Solid 2. But playing Metal Gear Solid 3 right now on my Xbox Series S, my God, that game is phenomenal. It is absolutely phenomenal. Buck Rogers, I haven't played those games, but those just aren't my type of games. Which games? The PSP Peace Walker or the Metal Gear Solid games in general? I love them. Metal Gear Solid 2, when that came out on the PlayStation 2, that was one of those moments where, it wasn't about the tech behind the game. It was just about the overall experience, the whole presentation. I ran out and bought Zone of the Enders because you got the demo, the tankard level of Metal Gear Solid 2. Zone of the Enders was a good game. PSP Games, Buck Rogers says, yeah, I bought a PSP. I even bought the PSP Go. My God, what a mistake that was. But Metal Gear Solid 2, when that game came out, man, it was unreal. I had never seen anything like that on a console before. The graphics were unbelievable. So I still do that. You know what I mean? Like, I'm not looking at games and not buying them. Oh, the Sony games you listed. You don't like any of those Sony games? Like God of War, you have no desire to try that or play it? Or Spider-Man or Ghost of Tsushima? That game is phenomenal. Unbelievable game. I guess maybe there are people who just don't like games like that. See, for me, I don't know I'm not going to like something unless I try it. I can't watch a YouTube video. I didn't come up in that era. There was no YouTube. You opened a magazine up, you looked at a couple of screenshots, it looked like something that would be cool, and you tried to get it, right? So that's where I am. I haven't played a Metal Gear Solid game yet. Don't really know where to start. Deadpool, man. Oh my God, do you have an Xbox? Deadpool, if you have an Xbox Series, whatever, X or S, there is the Metal Gear Solid HD collection that's available to purchase digitally. I don't think it's very expensive at all. You get Metal Gear Solid 2 and Metal Gear Solid 3. Get that. Play Metal Gear Solid 3 first, and then play Metal Gear Solid 2. If you like action, adventure, stealth, but you like really, really highly detailed, insane stories and characters, you're going to love it. Absolutely love it. Xbox Series X, yeah, just do it. Do it. Get it and play that game, Metal Gear Solid 3, and then play Metal Gear Solid 4, and play it. I mean, you have to like stealth. You have to want to like use gadgets and plan your way through. If you're really into just running and gunning, You can play it that way, but it really doesn't feel good that way. Kind of like Splinter Cell never felt good that way. When they tried to action it up in the last couple of installments, it really kind of lost its luster, and that's why it's sort of dead now, which is a shame. But the Metal Gear Solid on the PlayStation 1, and then Metal Gear Solid 2 and 3. Buck Rogers, like Xbox guys say, Sony games just all feel the same. I tried Horizon Zero Dawn 2, played Spider-Man at a friend's house and didn't care for it. I don't know. I guess, I don't know, man. I guess each their own, you know? I just, maybe I'm a single player person. I just like stories and games. I like worlds and characters and stuff like that. To me, mindlessly running around in a multiplayer game, like when I play a multiplayer game, like why am I there? What's the world about? Who's my character? Why do I have no motivation besides just running around with friends in my ear? I can do that, at a park. I did that when I was a kid. Why would I want to do that as a grown-up in a video game? I understand it's fun, right? But I still think most people, and you look at sales, right, or games of the year, most people are gravitating towards those big single-player experiences, and they carry audiences from one console to the next. Like, people move from the PlayStation 1 to the PlayStation 2, the PlayStation 2 to the PlayStation 3. They don't move between those systems for multiplayer games. They move for characters and worlds and sequels. And, they do that for the Xbox, too. The biggest game right now, 20 years later, a brand new generation for Microsoft is what? Halo. Most people are talking about Halo, and they're talking about it not even mentioning the campaign, which is sad to me because Buck Rogers, single player games is all I play. Well, then, are you just Xbox then? Because they don't really have a lot of single player games besides third party games. See, that's the thing. Third party games you get everywhere. So for me as a single player gamer, it would make sense if I was sort of limited, which I'm not. But I'm saying, like, if you just want to buy one system, you get all the third-party games on PlayStation. You get all of their first-party games, which are predominantly the best single-player action-adventure, story-driven games you can get on a console. So why not just own that system? Microsoft really hasn't created anything yet close to that. And they may, right? I mean, in 2024, 2025 with Starfield, maybe Fable, maybe. Avowed, I have no idea what it is. Neither does Rare. Right now, I'm waiting on Halo and the campaign. I'm hoping that it hooks me because that's the only reason I play Halo. I mean, I was there when Halo launched. I love that game. Buck Rogers. Only on PS4. Mainly play Japanese. Oh, well, obviously, yeah, the JRPGs are great. I just got into the Atelier Ryza series. I don't know if you play those. I was playing, what was I playing? Atelier Ryza, the latest one. And I really like it. I'm not a big fan of turn-based battles. Like the original Final Fantasy where you're walking through a world and then you have to be transported to another screen to fight. I just hated that. I like the real-time combat, which is why I love Tales of Arise. If you're playing that, that's incredible. Deadpool. When is Halo campaign trailer? They showed a campaign trailer that everybody hated, myself included, and then they kind of went silent, and they haven't shown anything yet, and that's the problem, right? Because we're almost to November, right? And it comes out in December. You would think that they would have shown something by now, like show me Chief walking down a hallway that looks cool or something to get me excited, and they haven't done it. Which is why I'm a little concerned, but what are you going to do? There's nothing you can do except wait. It may come out and be phenomenal, right? It may not. I mean, bringing in Joseph Staten doesn't mean it's going to be great. They brought him in for Crackdown 3, which is really strange because I played Crackdown 3 and I kind of liked it. I like jumping around. I like platformers. I like collecting things in a game. But clearly, that game was beyond saving. And bringing him in for Halo Infinite doesn't guarantee anything, but I'm hoping that the game and the campaign are really, really good and isn't fed to me piecemeal doesn't become a sort of a la carte Destiny style campaign. I would hate that. And I think a lot of people who are fans of the Halo campaign would hate that. I don't know how many more of them there are left, because everyone seems to just be talking about multiplayer when it comes to Halo. And again, I worry that that's just going to become just another free-to-play multiplayer shooter. Like, you know what I mean? Like, who cares about the world? Who cares about the characters? I hope that doesn't happen. Deadpool, I hope it's a good Halo. Needs a win. It does. I'm not rooting against it, right? I don't like what Microsoft's been doing lately. I'm not a big fan. I know that this is like saying, like, you know, you think the Earth's flat. I'm not a big fan of Game Pass. I'm just not. I don't like a perpetual subscription, especially when the content isn't that good. That's just me. I get it. But no co-op campaign at launch. Such a low blow. Yeah, I mean, for me, I'm going to play it by myself anyway, but I understand the idea of playing with somebody else in that world. I think it's important. And the fact that it isn't there is odd. The fact that, you know, there are a lot of things that aren't there that's really odd. So I think this is their last chance to get it right. 343, this is it, right? It's got to be their last chance. Halo 5 was horrible. If you're a Halo fan, the story was absolutely terrible. If you're a multiplayer fan, I guess you liked it. I heard some people say it was good. Some people say it was bad. Most people say it was the bad Halo campaign, but good multiplayer. Halo 4 had the good Halo campaign, but bad multiplayer. Maybe now with Halo Infinite, they'll get both right. I don't know. Co-op Halo 2 with a friend. Oh, man. Halo 2, when that came out, do you remember how big that game was? Do you remember the midnight release? I remember seeing ads with downtown New York. I mean, everywhere was Halo 2 and Master Chief. That's something else that I think Game Pass takes away. That big moment, that launch. Now it's just sort of like Halo Infinite, and it dropped in Halo. It dropped in Game Pass. It's like, you know, it's like going to the toilet and dropping one in there, man. Like, nobody cares. I need that big launch. I want that build up and those lines and those advertisements taken out all over the place. I think that's important for big games. I'm not sure if these subscription services like PlayStation Now and Xbox Game Pass help those games in that sense. You know what I mean? There's no big release. It's just sort of, okay, here's the date and there it is. That's it. The hype for Halo 2 built up. Oh, man, it was unbelievable. It really was. I remember going out, midnight launch. I got the Steelbook. It was, the people in line were insane. I mean, it was crazy. And all I did was play the campaign when I brought it home. I kept playing it and playing it and playing it. And I remember, what was the Halo, I think, where you would see the map of North America on Xbox Live, and it was all lit up. It was like everyone was playing Halo. I think it was Halo 3. Yeah. But I mean, that's how big that game was. That's how big Halo was. And it seems to be like the time has moved on from Halo, you know, with all these shooters now. It's like, and that's the reason why I don't want it to just be a free-to-play shooter. That's the reason why I think the campaign is important, because there's so many games now that all do the same thing. Everyone's trying to just make that quick buck. And I think if they pay attention to both sides of the coin, the story and the world and the lore and the characters, it's going to bring more people into it than just being another free-to-play shooter that everyone's waiting for the Battle Royale mode to launch. Michael Cleason. Get a time machine. Yeah, I know, man. Old dude here, man. I get it. Get off my lawn. I know. Halo 3. The guy at work took the day off. Yeah, for the midnight launch. It was crazy, isn't it? Like, grown men taking off work for a fucking video game. It's insane. It really was. It was insane. Those were good times, man. Those were really good times. That's when Halo was on top. And that was the time, like, you know, looking back, Black Ops 2 had that too. Yeah. See, that's my point, right? There's so many big releases, but with these subscription services, they just sort of fizzle out. Like, here it is, and now it's in there. And you just sort of wait. There's no real big build up. You know what I mean? You know what I mean? There's no edging and then that big pop. That's what I'm looking for again. And I miss it. That's why I love these big releases for Nintendo, right? Nintendo and Metroid Dread. I love the build up to that. And I can't wait for that game to be delivered. What is it? Today, actually. It's 12:13 a.m. Yeah, so I can't wait for that to come out. Yeah, that's life. But it doesn't have to be. You can find that excitement. If you can find it in other places, I suggest getting it. Because, again, like with PlayStation, I kind of feel that with a lot of their games. And with Nintendo, I still feel that with a lot of their games. With Microsoft, it sort of stopped during the Xbox 360 era and the Xbox One era for me. I still support them. I still buy the Xbox, but I would like them to release something big again and have a big push behind it rather than just, hey, it's quote unquote free because you paid whatever you paid a month. I'm still on that dollar deal. I had it for about 2.5 years. Next year I'm up. So I don't know if I'm going to be re-upping Game Pass. Who knows? Maybe if the games are good. I just don't think I will. I'm just not a game subscription type of person. Buck Rogers, gaming has changed, but I don't think for the better. Yeah, I mean, that's a sad thing. Deadpool. Half-made games at launch fixed with... Oh, man, tell me about it. We can go on to this. This over-reliance on online is my problem. The idea that... Think about this now. You can buy a game physically. This is why I talk about... I have a family member, and he loves physical movies. He collects all these 4K movies, and he's got the top-end player and the stereo receivers and the television, and I just don't get it anymore. You can actually buy a physical game, and more than half of the information isn't even on the disc anymore. You have to download it. And most games, even if all the information is there, you've got to download a day one patch, which is almost bigger than the file size of the original game that you purchased. I'm so spent on all that shit. That's why, again, I'm really into my Nintendo. I'm really into those little wafer cards. By the way, if you put those little wafers in your mouth, you're going to vomit. They actually coated the back of these things with something so that as soon as you put that in your mouth, you want to throw up, to keep kids from choking on them. Don't ask me why I know that. I just do. But I stopped collecting games a while ago. Everything for Xbox and PlayStation is digital, but I do buy my Switch physical because I don't know why. I think I still want to lean on that feeling like you were talking about, where it doesn't feel that way anymore. I think it can with certain systems and certain companies. That's why I think I keep going back to Nintendo, because they're always going to be a toy company. Essentially, we're all buying toys, and they're making a toy company. Then they're making other toys for you to play with. I mean, God, they sold cardboard. Buck Rogers, I'm 100% offline gaming. Thankfully, the games I like and buy don't need any patches. Really? Which games don't need any patches? Help me out here. I've bought a lot of single-player games, and every one I've put in requires a patch at some point, if not day one. Minus the Switch games, obviously. How long has this been going? 43 minutes and 52 seconds. Deadpool. Smart, they could easily just delete digital games, and there it goes. Yeah, I mean, I don't know. I'll give you a good example, right? I was talking about the Metal Gear HD collection earlier and playing it on your Xbox. So I bought that when it came out on the Xbox 360, and it's still in my queue on my Xbox now in 2021. So yes, technically at some point in time, they may decide to pull it, and I don't own it. I never owned it. Honestly, I bought it digitally, but it's still there. I still download it. Another game, Half-Life, the Orange Box. I purchased that when it came out on the Xbox 360. It's still in my queue on the Xbox Series S. So, yes, technically, do I own it? No. But I think that for the Xbox and the PlayStation, digital is an inevitability, especially in the way that they do things now, which is why, again, when the critique of Nintendo and their online comes up, I point to the idea of ownership and the idea of, shipping complete games that are finished, games that have a beginning, a middle, and an end. And a lot of times the Nintendo games, the first party Nintendo games, now, there are some games that have issues, but for the most part, I'm getting a complete package when it comes to the Nintendo Switch. Let me look through this. Did I miss anybody? All my games are no patched games. My only internet source is my cell phone. Wow. So you're using your data plan on your cell phone as an internet source. What games don't require patches that you're playing on the PlayStation? So for instance, right now I have Alan Wake. That required a patch. I'm looking through my queue right now, and I'll tell you what I have. So on the console storage, I have A Plague's Tale. That required a patch. Alan Wake, Astro's Playroom, Control, Death Stranding, the new one, required a patch. Deathloop required a patch. Ghost of Tsushima, Kena Bridge of Spirits required several patches. Ratchet and Clank, Returnal, Tales of Arise just got a big patch. So they all require pretty much patches at some point in time. Buck Rogers, digital is a no-go for me. I'll go full retro before I buy. Yeah, you're like my family member, man. I get it. Listen, retro gaming is good. See, to me, the closest to retro gaming I am right now is the Switch. I'm getting all the new Nintendo stuff, and I can play all the old stuff too. My Master System, my Genesis, my Dreamcast, my PlayStation, my N64, my original Xbox, I have them in my, gaming room, but I don't have them readily hooked up, even though I could hook them all up. I just don't want to do that anymore. I don't know why. It just seems to be too much of a headache. I'd rather buy a really old TV to do that, and they're so hard to find. I can't patch my games because my phone hotspot won't let me. Are you just in an area that doesn't have good internet, or is it too expensive in your area? I know that it is insanely expensive. I have internet and cable, and it's almost $300 a month. My internet alone is the terabyte down speed, and that's close to like $100 a month. So it is expensive. Lots of game has patches, but you don't need them. I guess that's true. I don't really know of what games release that you need a patch. Now, I'm assuming that there has to be some that require you to have a patch. But that is a good point. There are probably many games that have patches that release that you can play, but you just don't have to download them. Maybe some of the online features are walled off if you don't patch. Maybe some of the bugs that are fixed are still there if you don't patch, but you can play those games. So that is a good point. Internet is super overpriced out here. Yeah, I mean, it's overpriced everywhere. It's these, I don't want to get into why that is, because then it becomes like a ridiculous political discussion, which I hate. But, things cost money. Sometimes it's a little bit too much. I think my cable bill being $300 a month is insane, especially when I sit there and I flick channels and there's nothing on. I mean, I literally have pay channels, and the current movies that are on there are movies from like 15, 20 years ago, like The Mummy. It's 2021, and the big release on a Saturday night is The Mummy. It's just insane, and I'm paying $300 for that. So I need to get rid of that and just keep the internet. So coming up on 50 minutes, I think this was a success. I don't know. I've only made a PSN account about a year ago. Been playing offline forever. Buck Rogers. Yeah, I mean, look, if it works for you, man, keep doing it. That's my point, right? Whatever works for you, do. Especially with gaming. Don't worry about the technical aspects. Don't worry about not having the highest end TV. This, first off, this 120 frames per second, this variable refresh rate bullshit, where you got to buy a brand new TV just to take advantage of an ancillary feature. Who cares about this stuff? Honestly, who cares about it? Like 8K now? Really? So it just doesn't make sense. There's a point of diminished return. 8K, 4K, it's just your eyes can't adjust to that. 120 frames per second, 60 frames per second. I mean, okay, you're playing a multiplayer shooter, 60 is great, right? Buck Rogers is old and cheap. Yep. You're just thrifty. I don't know. I don't want to sound like the guy who's complaining about things like 120 frames per second. Like, I'm sure there are people out there who are going to be like, oh my God, he doesn't know what he's talking about. I just feel like, yeah, it could be important, but how really important is it? Is it really going to ruin your experience if you don't have variable refresh rate on your brand new 4K television and you can only, quote, only play in 60 frames per second? I just don't see it. I really don't. Buck Rogers TV is still 1080p. Wow. Deadpool says 8K is ridiculous. Deadpool, listen, man. I thought 4K was ridiculous. Take a look at how your eyes work and then look at 4K images. You're going to sit there and say to yourself, there's really something wrong with me. And include me in that too, right? Because I ran out and bought a 4K TV too. It's all marketing, man. They got us. They got us by the balls. They really do. Deadpool says, and I'm squinting to see this, 60 frames per second games just feel smooth. 30 isn't bad, though. I get that. And I think for multiplayer games, it's more of a concern. I don't have a big deal like playing something like Shadow of the Tomb Raider at 30 frames per second. I understand the difference. I can feel the difference. I downloaded it on the PS5. It's 60 frames per second. I notice it. But it's not destroying my experience that I already had playing it at 30 frames per second when it came out. Now, for multiplayer, I get it. You need that Twitch response. I'm not a big multiplayer guy, so I really feel like I really shouldn't talk too much on it, 60, 120 frames per second, but it's just not that big a deal to me. It never was. Hell, I used to think slowdown was something that they intentionally put in games that were difficult to give you a chance to get through the hard parts when I was a kid. And I played those old 8-bit games. Remember games like Ghouls and Goblins when it would just slow down on the screen to a crawl because the system could not handle what was happening? I thought that was intentional to give me a chance to beat the level. I mean, come on, right? That was before I discovered girls. Bug Rogers, no need for 4K when nothing Right, nothing you own does 4K. But you have an Xbox Series X, though. You could have got the Xbox Series S. That's closer to the 1440p, 1080p machine. You would have saved yourself some bucks. See what I mean? All right, where are we? 53 minutes. I can't believe I talked this long. Testing out a stream. Seeing if I got it to work. I have no idea how to do all those, effects and stuff that people do in their podcasts where you see video pop up when they're talking and stuff like that. Maybe I'll learn how to do that as we go. Super Ghouls and Ghosts had some mean slowdown. You know what? It's on the Switch Online. I think it's the Super NES has Ghouls and Ghosts on there, and it doesn't have that slowdown anymore, thankfully. But man, were those games hard, right? And there were no save points. You had to start and finish or start over again. Like when mom called you to dinner, you got to shut that shit off and start over again. Deadpool, good stream. Keep more coming down the road. Yeah, I'm going to when I can. And once I get all this stuff ironed out, I'm sure it'll get better. It's only 9:30. Not here. It is closing it on 12:30 a.m., so I'm going to be ending the stream. I appreciate you guys popping in here. I honestly didn't think anybody would be here. Just testing things out, and I appreciate it. And thank you for the donation. I have no idea where that went or what to do with it or how to get it, but thank you. And I will do one of these again real soon, maybe tomorrow night. And I will try to have topics lined up so I can talk without babbling. And we'll have a good time. So thanks for watching, guys. I appreciate it coming out. Deadpool, Buck Rogers, and there was somebody else here. I just want to make sure I don't forget. Deadpool, Buck Rogers, Michael Kissin was here. I appreciate all you guys for popping in here. I think that's it. All three of you. Oh, and there was one more person, right? I think it was Tony TGD. Yes. Tony TGD. Oh, and the Geek Getaway. Yep. All right, guys. I appreciate you popping in. Thank you for interacting with me in the comment section. I appreciate that. And I'm going to chalk this up to a semi-successful first stream using OBS on my channel.